Okay, here we are. So let's start. Thank you for waiting. We were like setting up the environment, so sorry for the big delay, but thanks to all that have like the passion to attend. So we are here in this event that is inside the All for Climate agenda set up by Environmental Ministry of Ecological Transition. Sorry, Ministry of Ecological Transition in Italy. It's in the setup of the pre-COP. But not only, the event is also part of Festival dello Sviluppo Sostenibile 2021. That's one of the main events regarding SDGs in Italy. So we are very happy to host this event. I'm Domenico. I'm part of the Mare Litter and Microplastic Working Group of UNEP MGCY. And today, properly, we want to celebrate, like also in this venue, the pre-COP, the role of youth in fighting plastic and mare litter pollution. So I will explain a little bit later what we are going to do and what our group is going to do. And I'll give the floor to my colleague, Christian Brustri from Politecnico di Milano to like introduce and give the opening remarks regarding Politecnico, that is the physical venue that is hosting us. So, Christian, to you. Okay.
Good afternoon to all. My name is Christian Brustri, as explained before, and I work for Politecnico di Milano in a role in the sustainability service, in which we find it also very important to talk and think along about plastic. That will be the main topic of the meeting today. The event would have been opened by Eugenio Morello, although he's due to other work delayed, and maybe he will show later and have a few words for us. For now, I will continue my presentation. First of all, welcome in this occasion. And I will tell you a little bit about the policies and the experiences in the Politecnico at current. What's the situation and how does that work actually at the university? Since we're talking about youth and plastic, why would we talk about the university? At first, I think it's important to notice that the scale of the university is an important factor. We're talking about almost 50,000 students, 45,000 to be more precise, but that's a small city. We can talk with such a big group that are, and meanwhile, I'm seeing persons in the sala d'attesa, if they're, okay. I can add them if I can. Sorry for the interruption. This aim group is also very sensible towards the subject. We're talking about pollution, about their future. Could you please turn off your audio? Thank you. A role of the university is also to have an interactive education. Talk, teach, but also learn what are the needs of this new generation. In which direction? So I've divided this presentation more in the direction of policy, of goals, of actions, then projects and collaborations, and I will finish off with the communications and proactive outreach of the university as an institution. Meanwhile, I'm fighting with the computer. The policy and goals to start with. Globally, we see a lot of SDGs. We're talking about the 17 SDGs in the festival del Sviluppo Sostenibile that's taking place these days. We're talking about it on the level of the EU, in our case being present in Europe, It's about circular economy. It's about the ban on single-use plastic. It's about alternatives. In Italy, where we are at current, we're talking about national legislation in that matter. We have some documents from the ministry pointing us in the right direction. And then at the university, this is my next step, and we're talking about the CRI. What's the CRI? That is political commitment. The CRI means the Conference of Rectors of the Italian University. The rectors of the universities here seen together have decided in this important document that, for example, increase the availability of water dispensers in public areas inside the departments and for the technical personnel of the universities. Favor the installation of vending machines. So this is at the national level. Directors, the bosses of the university have agreed to make these important items towards a change. This might be a bit of a complicated graph, but as I was thinking, how is the role of the university in a change? And in this case, a change towards plastic. The university is a role model. People, society might look up to it, but it's also a shaper of the future because we're teaching, we're researching, we're transferring knowledge through and within ourselves and students. We're raising awareness and we're communicating. How do these all together make a change possible? Well, I found this very old photo of my colleagues that will speak later, because it demonstrates very well what we understand amongst actions. Really go and do something about it. Water dispensers. Install water dispensers. Why water dispensers? One of the main public pollutants on plastic here in Italy is the plastic water bottle. Why not install the options so to prevent using these plastic water bottles, have more fountains? Where can I find these fountains? So from installing new ones, going to map them, tell everybody, share where they are. This presentation will be downloadable also afterwards. And I added the links through these tools to find your own way to avoid using plastic. The new vending machines that have been installed since 2020 have the no cup option. I have this small video which we made and tried to distribute to demonstrate it, where I cannot make it work, it doesn't matter. The use of hybrid cups. As I said before, the links are all in the videos. Hybrid cups are made of a more recyclable plastic. The use of compostable materials in the canteens. Talk with the canteens, with the management of the canteens to change the material. Okay. And the video just went. A water house, a bigger installation focused and explaining more about the use of water. This one is close to the offices, more on the east side of the campus. Separation of waste, 100% differentiated waste collection within the university. Okay.
Just one moment.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Aluminium bottles, distribute them for free among students, like last week, as is seen in this photo. Or selling them merchandised by Politecnico, be proud to be sustainable, and walk around with your own Politecnico bottle, part of the green collection. Campaigns to raise the knowledge of the SDGs. A little experiment we did recently, we asked students whether they knew what meant SDG. Unfortunately, there's a lot of work to do because the answers were negative. Almost everybody said no. A lot of work to do. We continue towards projects, how to change the behavior, in this case more. 3 universities together, they promote tap water, and they want to reduce and include the recycling of plastic waste. So a machine is installed to help the recycling of the plastic waste bottles. An app is produced, spread to find where to take your water. And in the meanwhile, these 3 universities are using their resources to spread this knowledge. Another example is ASAP, acqua sostenibile al Politecnico. No, it's okay. Simply sharing information about water. Can I drink the tap water? Well, here in Milan and at Politecnico, yes, absolutely, you can drink the tap water. There's nothing wrong with it, and some of our researchers have even proven that it's checked more than the water that is bought in bottles. So inform people about this type of information, share this, and hopefully in that way also stimulate using of a different use of water in water bottles. Now it wants to keep me going. The Polymer Run, an event organized by the university, a sportive event, and this year they put extra effort in stopping the use of single-use materials and dedicating collection islands for the plastic bottles. A step in the good direction. Still lots of changes to make, but also in sport and events, try to think about the sustainability and the future of what we use. Communication. Include the objectives in the university's policy. This is something that can be done by a little service, a little unit like we are, and in proposals, but it needs to come from a bigger voice as well. That's where Professor Morello comes in. He's the delegate of the rector in sustainability. And will this sound of sustainability be heard if one university says we should improve the sustainability of the university, we should stop using plastic bottles? Maybe these universities should also unite themselves, and that's more or less the bridge to my next slide, where as I want to talk about the network RUS. It's a network of universities in Italy, and what is so important of it, that you can share the measurements, you can share the best practices. Maybe in our university we have a nice water tap. In another university they have found a great way to recycle the plastic bottles. Share indicators, the measurements, monitor what's going on in the different places. So if we measure, we can also know more. Maybe that's typically something said at a technical university, but I think there is a great battle to win from that perspective as well. Some more information about what the other universities do. For example, 85% gives away these reusable bottles. Communicating through videos, through events, talking with students and colleagues. What do you think should be done? I'm curious to hear more about your opinions, and I'm looking forward to hear the other colleagues speak in this event, and we'll know for sure more about plastics and marine litter after this event. Thank you for your attention. All right. If there are any questions, don't hesitate to write me. In the meanwhile, I will give a little introduction to our next speaker, Federica. You can maybe already open her presentation. We'll talk about another aspect of plastic, not the maybe so visible plastic bottles, but she will be here to tell you more about the invisible part of the problem, or is it visible? That's to her to explain. Thank you.
Now the floor to Federica. Okay, wait. Okay. This one.
Yeah, thank you for introducing me and joining to this afternoon. My name is Federica Guerrini, and I am a PhD student here at Politecnico. And I'm going to briefly introduce one of the different, of the many research perspectives that are carried on here at Politecnico about plastic pollution. In particular, I'm focusing on the modeling of microplastic pollution. First of all, what is microplastic? It's every plastic fragment which size is smaller than 5 millimeters. There are some plastic fragments that reach the sea already with this size, as for example, the case of plastic pellets that are the ones that you can see from the pictures. But of course, they are not the only ones. Primary microplastics, they are called like that, may come from the pieces that detach from road markings or from the coatings of ships, but also from tires that lose pieces when they are moving on the asphalt, but also on, and maybe you cannot see the two pictures back, but there are also the textiles, the fibers that detach from synthetic textiles when washed, and also some personal care products. There are other pieces of plastics that instead detach from larger objects. This is the case, as you can see from the picture, of those fibers that come from fishing nets, for example, but also from other types of the object that may reach the sea. In fact, plastics, once in the environment, can get under the action of different mechanical stress on top of the weathering that comes from the action of UV rays. For example, these two effects are very intense on some environments, like the one of the beach. That's why it gets really important what do we do. For example, if we contribute to beach cleanups, this can be an efficient way of counteracting secondary microplastic, but also we can do significant action to reduce primary microplastics by making some of our choices. So by changing some of our choices and habits. Why is microplastic a threat for the marine environment? Due to its size, it can be eaten by different organisms, such the smallest ones in the ocean. Plankton, in fact, is able to ingest microplastic, and as it is at the very base of the food web, it gets eaten by larger organisms, such as larger fish, and we are also part in a certain way of the marine food web. So we can also eat fish that is polluted by microplastic. The risks of microplastics are not only of eating the particle, which has some toxicity per se, but microplastic is also able to carry other pollutants. These types of pollutants are, for example, hydrocarbons, but also some additives that are used in the production of plastic polymers. So how can we quantify and discover more about this almost invisible threat? The primary way of doing that is, of course, doing samplings at sea. That is the only way that allows us to find out, to have a snapshot of the concentration we have in the marine environment. Of course, this is a bit difficult due to maybe weather conditions for sailing in the sea. And for example, this is difficult when you have to organize long sampling campaigns. In this sense, numerical modeling and simulation can be of help because numerical modeling and simulation can be of help because we can, for example, now it goes further. I needed the next animation. We can model microplastics as dots that move in a virtual ocean. This virtual ocean and its currents are very realistic because we use for these oceans currents are made from data that comes from satellites and from on-site voice. So we are trying to describe the most realistic way the ocean currents. And in these types of models are also informed by real life sources such as coasts and such as the inputs, so real data from coasts and rivers, but also from fishing vessels that are often regarded as sources of microplastic. And we can use these types of modeling to understand patterns that are harder to describe, harder to study on field because of their wide spatial and temporal scales. In particular, in my research, I've been focusing on the case of the Mediterranean Sea, which is an enclosed sea that is particularly relevant for its wide biodiversity. And I'm not focusing not only on the dispersal of microplastic, that is of course very important, but also on the interactions with the surrounding pollutions, because as we know, the Mediterranean Sea can also be in some cases polluted. And so I am trying to find out a model that studies the interaction between this the chemical and the physical part of microplastics to possibly provide a tool that is able to make a comprehensive assessment of the risk caused by microplastics and by its related pollutants to the marine environment. Okay, thank you for your attention. And now what do I do?
Okay, thank you for the presentation. And yes, we have seen how university is pushing towards also like technological solution to like tackle marine litter and microplastic. But of course, university are one of the actors of the civil society that are fostering the change in this direction. But we have also the UN framework that is working on that, and I will with this have the pleasure to give the floor to Carla Fiori from UNEP Global Pact for Marine Litter and Microplastic. So Carla, if you want to come into the floor, then the floor is yours. Carla, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Domenico, do you want to put my slides? I think that would be easier.
Yes, so just 1 second. Okay. Okay. We are changing the screen, so okay.
If not, I can put them on I can try on my end.
Okay, I have it, I have it. Okay, here we are.
So, wait, let me check so I can see actually where the slides are. Okay, well, thank you very much. Let me put the full screen here. Thank you for inviting me to this event, this important event. My name is Carla Fiori. I have been with UNEP since 2012 and recently joined the Marine Leader team in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you very much again for having me here. Since this event is also linked to the Sustainable Development Goals, so next slide, please. So I cannot see where the slides are, your slides. So let me move the screen here. Well, it's not doing it, but yeah, it's the slide on SDGs, right? That you are on.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. So since this event is also linked to the SDGs, I wanted to start with this slide to remind us that about half of the SDGs are directly environmental in focus or address the sustainability of the natural resources. And UNEP is responsible within the United Nations system for the follow-up and review of the environmental dimension of the Agenda 2030, along with its sustainable development goals. Tackling the issue of marine litter directly contributes to reaching the sustainable development goals and the associated targets, especially goal 14, which focuses on conserving and sustainably using oceans, and its target 14.1, which focuses on reducing marine pollution, in particular marine debris and nutrient pollution. Reducing marine litter and plastic pollution also is very relevant to other goals, such as goal 12, of ensuring responsible consumption and production, goal 6 on clean water and sanitation, and goal 13 on climate action. However, we know that despite many efforts worldwide, plastic pollution is increasing. Global plastics production has quadrupled over the past 4 decades and contributes significantly to the triple planetary crisis of pollution, nature, and climate. Under a business as usual scenario, the annual flow of plastics into the oceans is projected to nearly triple from an estimated 9 to 14 million tons per year in 2016 to around 23 to 37 million tons per year by 2040. Greenhouse gas emissions associated with the life cycle of fossil fuel-based plastics is forecast to also grow to about 17% of the global carbon budget by 2050. The impacts on nature range from physical or chemical harm to individual animals to wider effects on biodiversity and ecosystem functioning. And evidence is growing that human health and well-being are also at risk, including from the not yet fully understood potential effects of chemicals and associated chemicals that are associated with plastics. So although estimates vary according to the approaches used, it is clear that maintaining the status quo is not an option and that bold action by governments, civil society, and the private sector is needed at all levels to tackle the issue. Next slide, please. So it should be the slide on UNEA, the evolving mandate on marine litter and plastic pollution. So fortunately, the speed at which plastic pollution is capturing the public attention is encouraging. At every United Nations Environment Assembly, since the first one in 2014, governments have adopted resolutions directly addressing the issue of marine litter and microplastics, as well as various other resolutions linked to it, such as sound management of waste and sustainable consumption and production, among others. This demonstrates the high level of interest in this topic and the urgency of developing solutions to the global crisis of marine litter and plastic pollution. It also shows that the discussion under the UNEA lens has evolved from effects on marine ecosystems only to more of a focus on the source of the problem and highlighting the need for things such as facilitation of national and regional action plans, phasing out avoidable plastic products, sharing of scientific knowledge, and improving design standards of products. In preparation for the resumed 5th session of UNEA, which called UNEA 5.2, we are witnessing a growing momentum driven by member states in the pursuit of a global agreement on marine litter and plastic pollution. And I will mention that briefly later. Next slide. So UNEP serves as the secretariat to the Global Partnership on Marine Litter. This is a voluntary multi-stakeholder partnership that brings together government, civil society, academia, and the private sector under the common goal of eliminating marine litter and plastic pollution. So the Gpml was launched at the Rio Plus 20 conference in 2012, and it has continued to grow over the years and now counts over 400 members from more than 70 countries. Well, I could say many things about the Gpml, but since time is short, I encourage you to visit the website, which is here on the slide, where you can find many useful reports as we continue to strengthen the knowledge base on this topic, as well as information about activities at the global, regional, and national level. Next slide. I do want to talk briefly about the Gpml digital platform, which was set up in 2020 and seeks to connect and inform all actors working on the issue of marine litter and plastic pollution. This multi-stakeholder, is a multi-stakeholder, mostly open source platform that compiles and crowdsources different resources, integrates data, and very importantly, connects stakeholders to guide action around the issue of marine litter and plastic pollution. Next slide. It is being developed through a phased approach with the timeline that you see above, which goes into 2023. And last week, phase 2 of the Gpml digital platform was released. Phase 1 had focused on integrating a wide range of resources, databases, and the creation of the first stakeholders database. And now phase 2 focuses on laying data hub foundations and piloting the matchmaking functionalities. The next steps for phase 3 will be to help develop more advanced data-related functionalities, create capacity building experience, pilot the action plan workflow, and enable stakeholders to connect further. The aim is to release this phase 3 of the digital platform around UNEA 5.2 in February. And a series of consultations are being continuously carried out. For instance, in April and May of 2021, UNEP hosted a user consultation focused on youth and early career professionals. And we very much welcome the perspective of youth to make this digital platform as relevant and as useful as possible. So we really invite you to access the portal and become engaged users. Next slide. Since its launch in February of 2017, the Clean Seas campaign has, and this is for those of you who don't know it, but it has become the world's largest international campaign on marine plastic litter, with 63 countries having joined so far, and we aim to have many more Clean Sea countries. It has inspired action from private companies, catalyzing behavior change among citizens across the world, with more than 100,000 people already having taken the Clean Seas Pledge, and promoting government responses, including pledges to reduce or eradicate single-use plastics from their societies through stronger legislation and regulation. So if you haven't already, we encourage you to take the Clean Seas Pledge, and the website is also here on the slide. Next slide. So this is on the MOOC. Since it was launched in 2015, more than 30,000 people have registered for the massive open online course on marine litter. This free online course is available in 10 languages and was developed by UNEP and the Open University of the Netherlands as a key activity of the Gpml. The MOOC has been created to stimulate leadership and offers opportunities for actionable and change-oriented learning related to marine litter and microplastics. A new MOOC on marine litter with updated content is being prepared to run at some point in either late this year or early 2022. So please stay tuned for enrollment, and we will be happy to send the information to the organizers of this event, of course. And the final slide, I wanted to let you know, so UNEP has been providing support to various recent country-driven initiatives and activities, such as the ones that you can see on this slide. And I won't go into detail except to talk a bit about the last initiative on this list, which many of you are aware of, since the UNEP major group on children and youth participated in these meetings. The Ministerial Conference on Marine Litter and Plastic Pollution, including the preparatory meetings, was organized by the governments of Ecuador, Germany, Ghana, and Vietnam. And it brought together governments and major groups and stakeholders to raise the level of commitment and to keep the momentum in the lead up to UNEA 5.2. It had over 1,200 participants from 146 countries. And the output was a ministerial statement calling for urgent action, including the call for a decision at UNEA 5.2 to establish an intergovernmental negotiating committee for a global agreement on marine litter and plastic pollution. So almost 50 countries have expressed support for the ministerial statement and are now at various stages of formally endorsing the statement. And you can see more at the Ministerial Conference website, because that gets updated, and it also has a lot of useful resources. In general, some key considerations that have been raised by member states are that, on one hand, the transboundary nature of the problem, which requires plastics to be addressed across the life cycle, considering both land and sea-based sources of pollution. Also, the need for a coherent framework to build upon, but not duplicate, on existing mechanisms. The importance of multi-stakeholder involvement, including youth, of course, and many others, but also including industry, to achieve a sustainable and circular plastics economy. And as mentioned, countries and stakeholders have continued to stress the need for urgent action to take the next decisive steps towards a way forward for global cooperation to address the issue of marine litter and plastic pollution. So last slide, in the thank you slide. It is our hope that the world will come together to develop a common vision to accelerate a drastic reduction in unnecessary, avoidable, and problematic plastics, and a shift towards circular approaches. The knowledge, enthusiasm, and dedication of young people around the world will continue to be really crucial to finally turn the tide on marine litter and plastic pollution. So we thank you very much and encourage you to push forward with the work that you're already doing on this very important issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you, Carla, for your kindness, your words, and your inspiration. And thank you also to all the other colleagues of the team by which we have collaborated as a Marine Litter and Plastic group, properly on capacity building webinar, and probably on Get Aware on the platform. That is an important point also regarding monitoring. So thanks again, Carla. Thank you also for accepting the invitation. It's been really an honor to have you here. And now we have cited the youth and the role of youth in combat marine litter, but in general in protect the environment. And with a great pleasure, I want to introduce our focal points of UNEP and GCY. Teresa Obenauer and Jugrana Stanislavova. So if you want to have the floor, Teresa and Jugrana. I think that they are in the call. Okay. Maybe we can have their greets after. I think that I don't see them again in the call. So, okay, maybe we can wait for them after. I think that there are some problem of connection, I guess. By the way, let's continue then with the schedule, and let's go on part 2. So I will invite my colleague Carol Maione to moderate the session, and Gabriela Fernandez. So, colleagues, you are to introduce the next speaker.
Okay, thank you very much for attending session 2 of today's event. The name of the session will be presentation of the position paper of the UNEP Major Group for Children and Youth. and in particular the subset marine litter and microplastic working groups. And in this session, we'll be presenting the output of this position paper that was published previously at the end of 2020. And I'm pleased to introduce the first speaker, which is Pasha Bernard, as a representative of CL. Pasha, you're here. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm gonna share my screen. Oh, it says participant screen sharing is disabled. Can I share my screen?
Okay, you can go.
Let's see. Oh, there we go. Okay. Sweet. Oh. I'm going to talk about plastics as a climate issue and how plastics are actually a climate nightmare. We talk a lot about how plastics are a waste issue, but there's a lot of issues with the production as well. So to start, I'm Keisha. I'm an organizer and a staff attorney with the Center for International Environmental Law, and there we use the law to protect the environment, promote human rights, and ensure a sustainable future. So like I said, plastics is a climate issue, and as plastic production is growing, it's increasing the threat to the Earth's climate. And that's because 99% of plastics are made from fossil fuels. So the same companies that are leading the climate crisis are also the same companies that are leading this plastic crisis as well, because they're the same companies. And as the demand for combustible fossil fuels is dropping, these companies are looking at petrochemicals and plastic production to continue to make profits. By 2025, the production capacity is projected to grow by a third for both ethylene and propylene, which are petrochemicals used to make plastic. And that would lock in a massive expansion of cheap plastic production for decades. So we're already making hundreds of millions of tons of plastic per year, and this expansion would just increase and lock in that number for decades. In a recent report that CL put out with our partners, we connected the plastic issue to the climate issue. And what we found was that greenhouse gases are emitted at each stage of the plastic life cycle. And Carla mentioned the plastic life cycle before. What is this life cycle? It is the fossil fuel extraction and transport, the production and manufacturing of plastic, the disposal of plastic waste, and then its ongoing environmental impacts. The extraction and transport phase of the plastics life cycle uses a significant amount of greenhouse gases, and this is the phase that the big oil and gas companies are directly connected to this plastic production because of the fact that the plastics are made from fossil fuels. Next, the plastic refining is among one of the most greenhouse gas intensive industries in the manufacturing sector. And it's also the fastest growing one. It's incredibly energy intensive and greenhouse gas emitting. And even if these industries were to electrify their production, it would still not decrease the greenhouse gas emissions enough to make it less damaging. And as we're trying to deal with all of the plastic that's being made, a lot of these companies are looking to burn the plastic, but this waste incineration would also contribute to greenhouse gas emissions, and that would just skyrocket. And so at current levels, the greenhouse gas emissions from the whole plastic life cycle is threatening the ability to keep warming under reasonable limits. The expansion of plastic manufacturing would be equal to adding over 600 new coal-fired power plants that would operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's just how dirty and climate intensive that the plastic production expansion would be. So not great. Plastic production is also no longer economical for anyone's economy. We put out a report last year to discuss how the oil, gas, and plastic industries are exploiting the COVID crisis as a way to use more plastic. However, the plastic supply is already outpacing the demand, and this difference in percentage points has crashed markets before, so it could happen with plastics as well. So stopping the expansion of petrochemical and plastic production and keeping fossil fuels in the ground is the surest and most effective path to reducing the rising climate impacts of plastics. CL and our partners also put out another study report about plastic and health impacts. And Carla also touched on this a bit. We found that at every phase of the plastic life cycle, humans are ingesting and breathing and absorbing toxins from plastics. And those lead to health impacts, such as hyperactivity and attention deficit disorder in children, low IQ, asthma, obesity, and early puberty. In adults, that can be shown as thyroid disorders, breast cancer, diabetes, obesity, low birth weight and developmental disorders in babies, infertility, prostate cancer, and low sperm count. So that was a lot of bad news about the climate and health impacts of plastic, but there's a lot to do to stop all those harms of plastic pollution. 5 things that we can do now is to first end the production and use of single-use disposable plastic. Second, stop the development of new oil, gas, and petrochemical infrastructure. Third is to foster the transition to zero waste communities. Fourth is to implement extended producer responsibility as a critical component to circular economies. And fifth, we can adopt and enforce ambitious targets to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from all sectors. Luckily, we're already working on this as part of a global treaty, and the Major Group for Children and Youth has been a key partner in that process. And so at the end of the day, to stop the pollution, stop the climate harms, to stop the health impacts of plastic, we got to make less plastic. Thank you. You can check out our reports on our website online and follow us on Twitter.
Thank you very much for this insightful presentation. And please, if you have any questions, drop them in the chat. And we'll move on to the next session, and we'll have a short life story video to present how the position paper is born and the authors of that. There will be Suzanne Astig, Badawar Asif, Christian Zakour, Dr. Gabriela Fernandez, Dr. Domenico Vito, Ibrahim Inusa, and myself. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'd like to ask, are you done with the presentation?
present from France. I'm a member of the UNEP MGCY for 1 year and a half. As a member of the Marine Litter and Microplastic Working Group, I advocate against plastic pollution holistically. As a passionate advocate and a jurist in international environmental law, I'm firmly believing that we need a global agreement to tackle the plastic crisis holistically. I think we need to come together to take concrete actions and bold commitments to manage the current plastic crisis by promoting a circular economy, a protection of our health, our environment and our oceans for the present and future generations.
Hello all. Hello Milan. My name is Ibrahim Inusa and I am from the desert. I'm from the dry land, forest, the most degraded landscape in sub-Saharan Africa in northern Nigeria, Yobe State. I want to reduce, reuse, refuse, remove, and recycle plastic waste and global plastic and microplastic pollution. Together, we can have a better world. We can all live. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Gabriella. We want to show you some of the environmental waste that we found here in Sardinia, Italy.
And from a littoral zone. I want to tackle world plastic and microplastic pollution by discouraging the use of polystyrene packaging. Furthermore, we can promote greener alternatives such as mycelium foam for our packaging.
Enjoyed this video presentation of work, and now we're going to give you some of the insights and the results of the work. Okay, I'll leave the floor to Domenico. I'd like to start with the introduction of results.
Okay, here we are. So you've seen this brief video that briefly resumed the activity that we had during this year. And one of the main one that we had has been properly the drafting of our position paper on marine litter and microplastic. So a few words about the group more in deep. So we're part of UNEP MGCY, that is CY is related to the youth environment protection, and actually the money and focusing on the microplastic we build on our challenge. To my colleague. So
Thank you so much, Domenico. As marine litter, can you please go to the next slide? Thank you so much. As marine litter and microplastic working group, our main focus is on the scale of plastic pollution that accounts for $75 billion in social and environmental costs every year. Plastic pollution originates from land, and when it makes its way into water, it jeopardizes the health and subsistence of marine ecosystems through ingestion, entanglement, and chemical contamination. When plastic debris breaks down into microplastic, it can endanger a wider variety of marine organisms and will ultimately become a threat for human beings. Another striking fact is that annually, 8 million metric tons of plastic enter our ocean, on top of the estimated 150 million metric tons that currently circulate our marine environment. Next slide, please. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, marine and microplastic pollution negatively impacts every nook and corner of our globe. Beaches and waterfronts are littered with plastic, and islands of plastic can be found floating in the ocean, seas, streams, rivers, and lakes. Plastic debris in the water can break down into microplastic, which increases the risk of being ingested by marine animals. A recent study has found that the annual deposit of plastic is equivalent to 120 million plastic water bottles being littered, leading to increased microplastic pollution. The consumption of single-use plastic has also increased with the onset of COVID-19 pandemic, which has caused a spike in the consumption of single-use sanitary products such as masks and gloves, along with the increase in less necessary single-use plastics and takeout containers, which eventually affects our oceans and environment. Next slide, please. Thank you. So, first and foremost, MJCY advocates the engagement of youth through education, which includes furthering their capabilities and skills to combat plastic pollution. We need to integrate healthy material science, donut economies, and waste, which mainly focuses on marine litter and microplastics curricula into schooling at all levels. Secondly, we encourage schools and universities to create and promote participation in environmental organizations that can serve as viable vehicles to reach communities and especially individuals and groups that are more exposed to the risk of plastic pollution. Third, the use of unconventional methods and tools to make materials more accessible to the learners is strongly recommended. Such tools may range from booklets to simulations and gaming activities to an entire course on marine litter and microplastics. Of course, depending upon the funding and locally and resources available. We firmly believe that the role of education can accelerate and will accelerate the shift from throwaway culture that sees individuals or consumers as primary polluters to the system's perspective that accounts for plastic pollution at all stages of plastic value chain to a more responsible consumption model. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. Next slide. Thank you so much. So Youth in our working group crafted a list of 10 concrete guidelines for the governments. And you can see our position paper by scanning the QR code, and please provide your valuable feedback. That will really help us improve a lot. For the ease of communication, our position paper is available in 6 different languages, including English, French, Hindi, Italian, Spanish, and Urdu. Next slide, please.
Okay, thank you.
And thank you. MJCY firmly believes and requests the governments to improve their strategies to tackle marine litter and microplastic in 3 main ways. Firstly, by ensuring proper monitoring and reporting status of our marine and coastal environment, as well as the magnitude of the plastic, because we cannot combat what we don't know. Secondly, by setting up policies to prevent plastic pollution and promote circular economy. This can be done in a multitude of ways, for example, by setting up production targets and promoting the reuse, recycling, and recovery of materials. Lastly, we stress upon the importance of sound and circular waste management by ensuring sound disposal, management waste, particularly plastic waste. We condemn the practice of incineration since burning plastics are releasing harmful chemicals in the air, polluting the environment and impacting the health, recently causing a death of 9-year-old girl in the United Kingdom. I will now hand over to Dr. Gabriela Fernandez.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so now we're going to be moving on to the 10, let's say, proposals. There we go. Good morning, good evening, and wherever you are around the world. So during our position paper, we have provided a list of 10 possible ways governments can make a difference starting today. So here we have the 10 sequence. The first one is setting up reduction targets. Second one is support organizations addressing plastic pollution or those who are directly affected. We also focus on adopting and enforcing regulatory litter in microplastic policy frameworks. Due to the COVID-19 outbreak, we need to adopt sustainability guidelines to manage medical equipment due to COVID through a good source of movement monitoring systems. Also developing a tailor-based waste management policy and adaptation toolkit plans, and recycling social campaigns for underrepresented populations, which is highly valuable. Environmental education activities for primary schools, as they are our first generation, collection of accessible and transparent data on the quantity of plastics waste generated and their effects. Implement coastal zone improvements, such as supporting bans by developing stricter measures by restricting open ocean aquaculture. Invest in sustainable infrastructure and monitoring facilities to make a circular and transparent system in place to prevent littering, incineration, and landfilling. And lastly, promote sustainable and respectful tourism legislation via implementation of sustainable policy commitment behaviors to help achieve circularity in the use of plastics. Resolutions at UNEA in 2019 by an expert group on marine litter and microplastics were rejected due to the concerns of a minority of states. We therefore urge the environment of all member states, in view of this changing UNEA MGCY, is asking for adoption of a global agreement on marine litter. The outcomes of these sessions must be bold and coherent, adopting an holistic and international approach to the pollution crisis. We think that the achievement of a multilateral agreement is a starting point for the implementation of effective regulations to tackle marine litter and microplastics at both regional and national level. MGCY is pledging for a bold, internationally binding text containing explicit measures that enable a move towards circularity and a reduction of plastic waste. The convention should support the adoption and implementation of a circular economy that focuses on eliminating the threat of the significant environmental and health effects posed by plastic pollution and marine litter to present and future generations. If you would like to know more information about the work that we've been doing, you can go ahead and click on the QR code. And basically the idea is to make the youth voices heard in the decision-making process dedicated to marine pollution. The MGCY, also known as the Major Group for Children and Youth, has actively participated in previous meetings preparing the upcoming UNEA 5. So here you can see some of the information that we have prepared in several different languages. Okay, I will now turn it over to my colleague. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ibrahim Inusa, and I'm a member of the Marine Litter Microplastic Working Group. And to further our dissemination and build young people's capacity, we have organized a series of capacity building webinars, which, as you can see, you can scan the barcode and get through the capacity building webinars. They are very educative, they are very empowering and energetic. So we try to build the capacity of young people to know the impact they have been, and many past speakers have been talking about the impact of the marine litter and microplastic. So you can check on our capacity building webinars using the barcode. So next slide, please. And you can also follow the conversation. The UNEP group for children and youth MGCI works towards a better future. We want more peace than plastic in our ocean. Youth in Marine Litter and Microplastic Working Group crafted 10 concrete guidelines for the government, as you can see from the previous slide, and you can follow the conversation using the hashtag circular economy, hashtag more peace, less plastic, hashtag youth for action, and hashtag plastic pollution, and hashtag unify SDG 14, SDG 6, and SDG 13. So you can follow the conversation on the hashtags, as you can see. And you can also click on the link to our position paper here. Next slide. So these are the presenters and the contributors to the position paper we have just presented, and you can reach out to any of the presenters or to any of the coordinators, Yugratna and Teresa. You can see our contact here, and you can visit www.youth-environment.org/project to get connected with us. So thank you. And you can join us anytime. Don't be hesitated. You can reach out to any of the contacts on your screen and the website, as you can see. Thank you.
We did. Now,
hello.
Ibrahim, do you want?
Oh, yes, I think I'm done, right? Yeah, thank you.
Invite to say wrap-up session for questions. So a surprise. More. But now I'll give you moderate the third part of our meeting. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for joining us. The third section will include some work that students around the world are basically doing concerning plastics. So our first presenter, I believe, do we have her here? Okay, so I believe we can go ahead and start our next presenter. Do we have Dustin Harrison? Let's see. Dustin Harrison, are you ready to present?
Tribunal International.
Okay, all right, so whenever you're ready, please go ahead and start.
Hey, can you hear me? Dr. Fernandez, how are you doing?
Hi there, doing well.
I'm just getting
Good morning
set up here.
over there in San Diego, California. Okay,
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So we're eager to hear and what is happening in San Diego and California as well. So when you're ready, you're more welcome to start.
Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
First, I want to thank Dr. Fernandez for inviting me out here. I'm with her research lab, and we're looking.
Just a second.
Dustin, please, if you can open your microphone, please.
How's that? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Can you
so
put full screen?
It says that it is full screen. How's that? Can you guys see the screen?
Not yet.
Are you able to see the slides?
Now you can see
How about now? Can you see the slides?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. Okay. So I'm interested in aquatic ecosystems, and I'm helping Dr. Fernandez and the Metabolism of Cities Living Laboratory collect data on SDG 6 and 14. So this presentation is just my personal opinions. It's not the opinion of the state of California. From the State Water Resources Control Board and the Southern California Coastal Water Research Project, they put on a workshop to collect a framework for moving forward with some of the bills I'm going to discuss throughout the presentation. And if you're interested in more information, I recommend you guys follow the link at the end of this slideshow. So my educational background is marine biology. I'm interested in aquatic ecosystems. And I want to repeat that I'm not a microplastics expert, but I'll be providing a brief overview of some of the legislation California has presented on plastics that could potentially impact the environment and drinking water. So the California definition of microplastics are solid polymeric materials to which chemical additives or other substances may have been added, which are particles at least 3 dimensions, greater than 1 nanometer and less than 5,000 micrometers. Microplastic research has been going on since the 70s. There's a variety of methods to monitor and measure the amount in the environment. Some of the variables include size, shape, chemical mixture, and polymer type. There's various technologies such as satellites being able to read the spectral imagery. Also, they can separate plastic particle size based on like a density of liquids. So that's another way of measuring plastics in the environment. While we're collecting this data, it's very important that we understand what this data means and interpreting that as it relates to health risks. Some of these variables can impact how they affect biological systems. So early legislation was back in 2007, AB 258, plastic discharges. The intent of this legislation was to reduce marine debris litter. At the time of this publication, the EPA estimated 30,000 tons of plastics were being developed in the United States alone. More recently, in 2018, there's approximately 35,000 tons of plastics being produced. SB 270, single-use carryout bags. I would see single-use bags blown all over the place and they would collect everywhere. So getting rid of those was good for reducing pollution that is blown in from various landfills. AB 888 was specifically to eliminate plastic microbeads that are washed down the sink. Microbeads have been found in waters of the United States. They collect in organisms and they bioaccumulate. More recent legislation, SB 1263, requires the State Water Resources Control Board to develop plans for measuring microplastic particles in drinking water. SB 1422 required the California Ocean Protection Council to adopt and implement a statewide strategy for lessening the ecological risks of microplastics to coastal marine ecosystems. So moving towards a policy, the state wants to be able to provide laboratory accreditation for programs and training. One program that the State Water Resources Control Board administers is surface water ambient monitoring program, where you see it here is called SWAMP. What this program does is you can basically go out to aquatic ecosystems, collect aquatic bugs, and determine the health of that ecosystem. And I see this protocol fitting into being able to measure plastic pollutions in the environment. And as we're collecting biological organisms, we want to be able to determine some of these thresholds. What are levels that are affecting biological processes in the ambient environment as well as in drinking water? Various research has suggested health effects. Some of those include lung deformation, destroying reproductive organs, as well as disrupting endocrine systems. I was at the beach not more than a month ago, and I saw a flock of seagulls fighting over a fish, and I wanted to find out what type of fish that was. As I got closer, it turned out it wasn't a fish, it was actually a plastic model of a fish. So this is an example of food dilution, where an animal will consume plastics, it gets stuck in their stomach, basically reducing the nutrient input of that organisms. So that's one example called food dilution. So this is a real example of plastic pollution in the environment. Moving forward, we want to fill scientific data gaps, including food and inhalation data. Apparently particles become airborne, so understanding those processes, weathering processes, becomes more and more important. And further develop effective policy and legislation that addresses pollution in aquatic ecosystems and drinking water. At the individual level, we could increase our recycling, reduce our waste, and reuse plastic material, and even change our materials that we're using. For example, our clothes may have polyester, nylon, acrylic, which are all polymer. Here's the link for the website or the workshop that I mentioned earlier. I suggest you check that out. It has very helpful information on how the state is moving forward with measuring and monitoring plastic in the environment as well as in drinking water. A couple sources, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dustin. We will hold questions for the end. Very insightful in the context of California. We will move on to our next presenter, Sebastiano Ercoli and Alessandro Garlandini. He will be presenting plastic eco-design for children and youth, raising awareness on plastics and sustainability while having fun. So, Sebastiano, when you're ready.
Hello, everybody. I hope you can hear me well. I'm Sebastiano Ercoli. I'm a product designer. I got my PhD here in Politecnico, but I feel a bit an outsider here because I'm not a representative of the university, but I'm here as a part of Il Vespaio, which is a network of designers, educators, and people interested in projects about sustainability and eco-design. The group exists since 2008. We started collecting the waste from companies and reusing it to produce merchandising. This is what we did at the beginning, like 12, 13 years ago. We started collecting adhesive banners from bike races or waste from the production of electric appliances, like here from Whirlpool, to make always merchandising for the company itself, or this, which is an object that you can produce using cardboard that we give to the child, together with the plastic caps that the child can take at his home. So we started with this sort of projects. We could also find rather big clients, like this was produced for Barilla, for Mulino Bianco. And from this type of projects, we started to move to more educational and social projects. This is another example of what I'm saying. In 2014, 2015, we brought 100 designers in different hospitals here in Milan, and we did it also in other cities, to design toys from scrap material, from waste, together with the children that were hospitalized. And the project was very nice. It ended with an exhibition in Triennale. So from this sort of projects, I'm just going fast because it's lots of slides. This was in the Malpensa airport, an installation for for promoting the recycling of paper in the airport. So we started to be more involved in this type of projects that have an educational aim. This other is Kids Against Waste, is a track that teach to children about the production of food and how waste is made during the production, during all the phases that the food has to go to our table. Or this was an installation to teach about circular economy. So from this sort of project, and also projects with schools, this was a competition for different high schools in Bergamo, where each school had to build some sort of benches with recycled material. So from this sort of projects, we became more and more interested to education for children on the sustainability theme. And this is the kind of project that I would like to show you today. Riciclala is and the physical game for primary schools. I brought a physical copy here, but you can find more information if you just Google it. It's a physical game that was distributed freely in schools. So it was produced in some like 10,000 copies, and it was distributed in primary schools in Italy to promote the collection and recycling of plastics. And it's a project of probably 3-4 years ago. It won some prizes, and it works well. But with all the problems with COVID, we had to develop a new version that is online. And here you can see some of the characters that we have in the website. And it's made up of videos and other materials that are available online, so the teachers can just download them. Also with all the restrictions that we had in the past year. And the second type of things we are working on that I would like to show you is what we are more involved in now. It's the building of machines for recycling plastics. We joined Plastic, which is an open source project in the Netherlands. And we built, now we have 2 machines, but we are building more for recycling plastics in a small scale. The first is a shredder to shred plastics, and the second is an injector to inject the plastic inside the mold. And so we started to produce little objects to be used in educational workshops for children. Our purpose is not to make a production with these machines, but to use them as an educational tool for the children. So we started to produce the first object using some very simple molds. You can see these are just 3D printed molds. They have a limited life, like you can do 100 prints, a bit more with this type of molds, but they are not eternal. From this and from all the limits of the machines, we started to develop other projects like I brought here. This is a joint that we can inject. And because our injector can produce only small objects, we decided to design a joint so we can produce bigger structures. It's a modular structure like you see here in the image. So all the pieces together are made to build a bigger structure. And our aim is to use these joints to make exhibitions in schools. So we use it for our types of projects. So, you know, there are lots of problems in designing a mold. You have to develop some specific knowledge about how to properly design the mold. But it's very fun. Here you see the tests in the studio. With the injector, you inject the plastic inside the mold itself. Then we take the piece out of the mold. We drill it because we need to put a screw on it. And you have the finished pieces here on the right. And these machines, they are made to be carried rather easily around. So we bring them to schools. And here it's Plastic Fighters, the project where we are involved in the last 6-7 months. The project was developed for Barona, which is an area here in Milan. And for 1 semester, we did workshops with children in primary schools, teaching them about plastics and doing with them the recycling of the plastic that they were collecting in the school. So this is like our workshop. They were recycling the thing in the shredder, designing new objects. And the thing you see on the right is something that they designed. Then we developed the mold for their idea is a hook to join paper together to organize little exhibitions inside their classroom. So we produced this mold and we produced it with them. So we needed some months to develop the project, but it was very nice. And well, if you want to come and visit us at the studio, I will be very happy to show you the machines and how they work. And we plan to organize some events where we can collect the plastic directly and use it. We are really willing to find some bigger project to be part of. That's all. I hope you like this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sebastiano. I think that the work that you are doing is wonderful, working with children and reusing plastic and giving it another life. Okay. All right, so let's now move on to our next presenter. Her name is Harmit Chima. Let's see. He was joining. Just a second.
In the meanwhile, that Armin is joining. I see in the call there is Professor Grosso that has joined the call. Maybe Professor Grosso, if you want to like give your remarks to the conference. Professor Grosso, the floor is to you.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, very well.
Okay, sorry, we had some technical problems. I tried to. I don't know if you can also see me, but not really so crucial. So I've heard just the second half of your event, which I found really very, very interesting, very inspiring. So really nothing too much to add to what was shown. I think we have this big issue. We have heard a lot of proposals which go in a specific direction of decreasing the use of plastic that will become waste, on targeting the marine litter and so on. I would like just to give some other indication, maybe also some provocation. I mean, to try to also be realistic. Each time that we propose some drastic solution, because I mean, to say that we should really think about banning plastic is a drastic solution. We have to realize this. We always have to think about the alternatives. And what can be found is that the alternatives are there for many situations. We have alternatives. We should really get rid or decrease the single use, the one-way disposable plastic and so on. But in some other situations, the alternatives might be even worse. So we have to be very careful and not to shift the problem from one point to the other, so to avoid what we call burden shifting. I give you some practical examples. So plastics, of course, we have highlighted all the negative issues of the plastics. And from my personal point of view, of course, the negative aspect is the fact that it can be very easily released into the environment. It can pollute the rivers, the sea, and so on. But the other big negative issue is that it's produced from oil, and as it was emphasized in a previous presentation, oil should remain in the reservoir. We should really start stopping extracting further oil. So this, I think, is the main issue. But on the other hand, we have to realize that compared to many other materials, in the use phase and also with the life cycle assessment perspective, plastic is difficult to be beaten by other materials. I give you a practical example. Generally, we tend to think about glass as a sustainable material, which in practice is. But if you compare plastic with glass for the packaging utilization, with LCA perspective, plastic will win. No discussion about this, because it's very light. So, of course, if the production of 1 kilogram of plastic is more impacting than 1 kilogram of glass, this is sure. But the point is that you need 20 times more glass than plastic for the same use. So at the very end, you get a worse result for glass. So we have to find solution, because this is an issue. But on the other hand, we have to be very clear about how crucial and how important plastic is in many applications. So the point is to get rid of plastics where we don't need it, where there are feasible alternatives to really get rid of the single-use plastics. And from this point of view, at least the European legislation is really targeting the single-use plastics. But in many other applications, there is the risk that if we substitute plastic with other materials, we end up with a worse environmental performance, because of course the weight has to do with all the life cycle stages. Every time that we are transporting something, the weight is playing a crucial role. So I think this is one important message to throw. On the other hand, we have to be aware that the plastic has the fact of being so light, which is an advantage from the environmental point of view, means that it is very, very easy to lose it into the environment. So all the plastic that we see in the environment is not necessarily released by the people who want to throw plastic in the environment. I think that most of it, or at least part of it, is due to the fact that we simply lose the plastic because it is very light. So like in many other situations, we have a complex problem which requires complex solutions. I'm not really going to add many more things because we had very brilliant presentation and very inspiring suggestion and proposal. And I wish you all good luck for your study and for your efforts towards trying to address this very relevant environmental topic.
Thank you, Professor Grosso. We will now move on to one of our students, Harmit Chima, who is from San Diego State University. Harmit, are you there?
So?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes. Okay, we're ready when you're ready.
Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. I am delighted to be here at this event, Young People Fight Against Pollution. Today, I will be presenting on the San Diego State University SDGs tracking dashboard, focusing on SDG 6, clean water and sanitation for all. So like Dr. Fernandez said, my name is Harmit Chima. I am currently a second year at SDSU in the Masters of Science program, Big Data Analytics. I also did my undergrad at SDSU in statistics, and I joined the Metabolism of Cities Living Lab in October 2020. So first, I want to introduce the water crisis in California. So here in California, the northern part of the state, about 80 miles north of Sacramento, the capital, there it obtains 75% of California's water. However, 80% of the demand occurs in Southern California. So California has an extremely special climate. It experiences extended droughts along with major floods. So also I want to touch on the fact that despite these variables, it should be no surprise that it impacts low-income communities the most. An example of this is how groundwater is running dry in specific areas. So next, I want to touch on how the Sustainable Development Goals contain a total of 17 goals. From those goals, we separated them into 3 different phases. So our first phase contains 5 priority SDGs, and this includes water, energy, infrastructure, sustainable cities, and sustainable manufacturing. But specifically today, we're going to talk about SDG 6, which focuses on water. So SDG 6 is actually the most recent iteration of the United Nations aim to address water-related issues. And a huge reason for that is just because the world needs to transform the way it manages its water resources and delivers water and sanitation services to billions of people, because water is in fact a non-renewable natural resource and we will one day run out of it. This was adopted at the 2015 UN Nation Summit as a part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development to provide clean water and sanitation for all. So within SDG 6, there are smaller goals within it called indicators. And SDG 6 has 11 indicators. All of them are connected to the overall goal of ensuring availability and sustainability management of water and sanitation for all. So I have all 11 of them listed on this slide. So to visualize SDG 6, we created a dashboard that would provide a clear assessment of the current state of the environment in Southern California across relevant scales to enable and inform our audience of the tracking of the Sustainable Development Goal targets in San Diego County and in the future Imperial County. So our lab recognizes that in order to achieve the global goals, it is crucial for people to acquire knowledge, values, and skills to enable communities to better respond to the external changes and challenges while promoting more equitable, inclusive, and resilient societies. So within this dashboard, we hope to bridge the gap between science, civic engagement, and policy by turning the best available scientific knowledge into information relevant for decision makers. Now I want to touch on the importance of visualizing in a dashboard. I want to highlight 3 important reasons. First, it creates and shares and applies knowledge. Second, it creates a great way to seek ideas and aid SDSU and SoCal to meet their climate action plan goals, as well as harness the unique capacity of a research institution to demonstrate climate solutions. Finally, planning for a low carbon future at SDSU presents unique challenges and opportunities to demonstrate climate savvy planning, building, and engineering, as well as human engagement and innovation. And using a dashboard is a great way to showcase that. Next, I want to introduce our study area, San Diego County. The county's water needs have outnumbered the local supply of rain. And with a place as beautiful as San Diego, the population is increasing at a vast rate. The city of San Diego purchases approximately 90% of its water. Within San Diego, there's 9 reservoirs within it. They also treat wastewater to a level that is approved for irrigation, manufacturing, and other non-drinking or non-potable purposes. Next, I want to introduce the dashboard. So portions of the San Diego population live without safely managed drinking water, sanitation, and hygiene services. COVID-19 has underscored the need for universal access to these services to combat the pandemic and promote a healthy, green, and sustainable recovery. So water is required across all sectors of society to produce food, energy, goods, and services. Many water sources are in fact drying up, becoming more polluted, or both of those. In addition to water stress and water pollution, San Diego County is facing growing challenges linked to degrading water-related issues. So in this dashboard, we are focused on tracking safe and affordable drinking water, improving water quality, wastewater treatment, and safe reuse, implementing integrated water resource management, and wetlands, rivers, and lakes. So due to how advanced San Diego County has been in recent years, it is important to note that how much is being spent by water districts. So as you can see in this dashboard, we showcase the cost of infrastructure access, the cost of storage, the cost of supply reliability, which is just the shortages that result from failures of a system's physical components, and then the cost of customer service. So as you can see within all of these bar plots, the City of San Diego Public Utilities Department has an overwhelming cost number. So further investigation on the City of San Diego would provide deeper insight on why their costs overshadow all the surrounding watersheds. Where, as you see in our map, a good portion of our watersheds are along the coast. From there, we showcase potable water per total population from 2009 to 2019. And as you can see, it increases and then it decreases Metered irrigation water use in San Diego County is also showcased, as well as recycled water use in San Diego County, which are all necessary to monitor and track the county's progress for reaching the SDG 6 target date of 2035. So following our methodology, it's important because the Metabolism of Cities Living Lab considers how societies function, how economies flow, and how we interact with our planet to build equitable, inclusive, and sustainable environments. We also have over 30 plus multidisciplinary members from the United States of America and Mexico. We also have international thought leaders from Italy, France, and Ukraine. And it's important to have all hands on deck within this issue. And while doing that, we can learn from other places, other cities, other counties, as well as internationally. So for next steps, our next steps include implementing the SDG 6 dashboard for Imperial County, continuing the process for the rest of the SDGs within phase 1, and then moving on to phase 2 and phase 3. And within that is data collection, as well as data aggregation and all that fun stuff. Obtaining and incorporating real-time data. We have had a number of meetings where we are now interested in that and turning the MOCLL into a hub. So that'll be exciting and interesting. And to also just continue to grow and expand locally and internationally. So if you would like to contact me, I have presented my email as well as Dr. Gabriela Fernandez's email. If you want to check out our website, I have added the QR code here. So yeah. I've also listed my references if anybody was interested in that. So thank you. I welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you, Harmit, for your presentation. I will now turn it over to Dr. Domenico Vito, who will take care of the Q&A section.
Thank you very much, Gabriela. And thank you, Harmit, and all the speakers for the amazing presentation. So we have now a few time for questions. So I will invite the participants to state their question. Eventually, you can raise your hand or write the question into the chat as you prefer. So the floor for the participant for questions. Okay, I saw some on the chat before also, and I saw also Raul Deep as like a point. Okay, so Harmit, can you see the question of Raul Deep? I will also read. So could we use the dashboard to track indicator for other states as well? So to you.
So regarding our methodologies, you can definitely recycle those and create those for other states and other places. But right now we're thinking globally, but acting locally. So we're focusing on Southern California and mainly San Diego County, as well as Imperial County and the surrounding areas. So unfortunately, we haven't expanded to that quite yet, but hopefully as we keep growing and expanding, we one day get to that. Thank you for your question.
Okay, if there are other questions, I saw some of them also from before, but I think that they were for the other speakers. So if anybody has some other questions. Okay. Is the data on the dashboard on real time?
No, not yet. We actually just started having meetings on even how to do that. So Currently, I feel like sustainability data isn't the most accessible. So there's steps within the overall goal that need to be taken to even get there. But we are well on our way to pursuing that. So currently we have data that has been captured over time. So we've done like the past 10 years. We also have data that's from 2021, but unfortunately we do not have real-time data just quite yet, but hold tight, we will get there soon.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if there are any questions still. How do you qualify the effort invested in getting the dashboard up? I don't know if you see the question, even though I will repeat, how do you qualify the efforts invested in getting the dashboard up?
Could you clarify on what you mean by qualify the effort invested?
Okay, eventually the participant can also open the microphone and state more information. I don't know if
I'm not sure if I quite what amount of effort was invested. Yeah, so I would say the data collection took the longest, as well as, I guess, data cleaning. I think that's 80% of your time. We also created metadata. So I started on this project in October of 2020. And so it's somewhat, I would say the beginning steps are somewhat time intensive, but I feel after we get a blueprint of what we're trying to do to replicate it will be a lot easier for the other SDGs as well as other locations. So it was somewhat time intensive. Thank you for your question, Jubril.
Okay, thank you. I think that now we can move to the surprise, as I said before. And meanwhile, maybe also Luciana that was expected on the panel, maybe she will join, so maybe we can give like a few time to also to state, but let's start the surprise. That's a game. So now I will start the game and please follow me. So this is a game that we design for the Marine Literary Microplastic Working Group. Oh, so I saw that Luciana is joining. Let's see, just one moment. Hi, Luciana, are you there? Luciana, can you hear us? Hello?
Hey, I can hear you.
Hi, so just introduce Luciana and then I give you suddenly the floor. Luciana is like coordinator of one of our, we can say, sister working group in another constituency, Yango, inside the UNFCCC. And she's the coordinator of Ocean Voice. So we did also some events together, probably because we are on a common purpose. So to you, Luciana.
Thank you for the introduction. It's a pleasure for being here. Sorry for the delay. I was confused with the time zones, but happily I'm here. And I want to introduce a little bit about microplastics and also about what is the mission from young people, from the youth into these problems, and what have we done to work towards these towards the ocean, and also the projects that we had on Ocean's Voice. Currently, I'm coordinating a team of 367 members from 75 countries. So it is a pleasure for being here. And if you can let me, Domenica, I can share my screen.
Okay, please go.
Thank you. Okay, just. You can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. So it is important to understand that the members that are here, we have a role in this world, and it is okay that you have a role, but you need to understand that it's important that you choose whatever you like. So in my part, I love the ocean, and my role here is to coordinate members in different parts of the world and understand that each part has different contexts, and each part of the ocean has different contexts, and we need to address it depending on their costume, depending on the people that lives in there, and depending on what is happening in the place. So right now, let's talk about microplastics. And in the top, we'll see the big problem about microplastics that comes to consumerism. And at the bottom, we will see the principles of the ocean decade. As you may know, we are in the decade of the ocean established by the UN. And it's important to understand that we're in the right moment to address the ocean problems, and to find a solution to it, because we all depend on the ocean. And also, it is important to understand that the solution toward these problems is the behavior that we have, and the way we think, and the way we address every problem. We need to also understand that we need to have a strategy in whatever we want to do. And for example, even though it is like small steps, you need to first know what is the problem, so you know what is the solution. Okay, so a little bit about microplastics, and I know that you should, someone here have already heard about microplastics. It is important to understand that everything goes on the plastic, and it is pressed in different little pieces of plastic that not only animals, but also us as human beings, we eat it. So we eat it through the fish, we eat it through animals, we eat it through the water that we drink. We drink it. So it is important to understand that everything affects all of us. And it's not only, it's like a cycle. So whatever you do, you have the responsibility and you have the consequence on it. So as you may know, it is all connected, and it can be through the ocean and through the rivers, and then it goes to your dish wherever you eat. And something important, the second principle of the ocean, is that the ocean and life in the ocean shape the future on Earth. The ocean is the most, for me, the ocean is one of the most important and also undiscovered places that we don't know what's all the ocean and the importance of all of it. So we need to understand it, that we need to have a respect to it. It's delaying a little bit. Okay, let's see. Okay, so a little bit about the solutions on these problematics that we have towards the ocean is that we all need to be part of it. For example, if we're talking about the government, okay, the government should do something, but what about the society? What about the companies? What about all the sectors that we want to talk about? And each one of them is important, and each one of them needs to do their role. So for example, I want to be a little bit more dynamic, and I want to ask you, for you, what could be a solution that you as a member, as a person, can do so you can maybe educate another person towards the consumerism that we have on plastic? Or how can we stop having these microplastics? What solution do you have that you can do? Let's see, who want to raise their hand? Let's see, or do you want to say some, let's see. Or if you want, Dominica, do you want to say something regarding it? Like for you, like what should be an idea for you to address the microplastics, or how can you reduce the consumerism that we have in plastic?
Surely, as literary microplastic, as we addressed maybe the advocate and education can be one of the way, but of course is not just on that. We have also to act, I don't know, with the government and so on.
Yes, another person said that mass action towards sustainable lifestyle as being addressed by anatomy of action. Also, we can talk about minimalism to understand, to spread this information. If you want, you can type it in the chat, like, what ideas do you have? Actions. What actions do you know, or that someone that is not in part of an organization, that is part of the, is a citizen, what they should do to stop using plastic? Maybe they can change their plastic and use glass bottles, or maybe they need to start in the part of education, right? So a little bit about different terms, short, medium, and long term. We're talking about short term, that society needs to stop using single-use plastic items. And also as a middle term is about government. They need to stop and prevent the waste from leaking into the environment from the trash and improve the recycling rates. So it is important that we, as the government, provide the tools to all the citizens so we can do the right thing to this. Another person, let me know if I'm saying it correct, that is Rahul Deep, is saying that government can promote initiative from alternatives and tax plastics. Yes, and not only government, but also maybe as a person, you can go to schools and share to them what is the importance of reducing the single plastics. And in part of scientists, as a long term, it is important to break the plastic and to rebuild the new plastic with other materials instead of using the plastic that it takes a lot of time. Something important that we need to understand as well is the education that we have. Sometimes we think that we as an activist, why we don't change the mindset of a person, but it's because they're not connected emotionally with the environment. And we need to do that. We need to connect emotionally with the members, with other people that are not part of the environment, that are not activists of the environment, that doesn't know anything about how to address the environment. We need to connect them emotionally with the things that surround them. That way we can educate them, and that way we can change their mindset into a more environmental one. A little bit about what that you have done all around the globe. For example, in Mexico, we have snorkeling for trash, that you can pick the trash and goes like in the name. You can snorkel and pick the trash. And also we have the kilometer one in the Gambia Ocean that is in Africa. But we need to understand it that we as an activist, it is important that, yes, we can clean the beaches, we can clean trash that is in the ocean, but why we need to clean it? Maybe the thing is that we need to stop having the trash in the ocean. That should be the right path, not us to clean all over it, but to stop using a lot of plastic, to stop having the consumerism. And we, the youth, we need to change this mindset. We are a new generation that should do something regarding it. A little bit about Ocean's Voice, that is the group that I coordinate, is one of the problems that we have addressed is not only about plastic, but about nutrients. So the things that we do, the action that we take as citizens, the action we take in the part of all sectors, as private sector, as the government, as academia, everything has a consequence on the ocean. And the consequence on the ocean affects all of us. And we need to understand that. Another solution that someone says, it says that we also need EPR for a company from the design to the market. Yes. And to finish my participation here is a little bit brief about what that you have done, is that you can get and you can unite in different organizations. You can participate in different organizations that are being part, not only in the part of cleaning beaches, in the part of cleaning the ocean, but in the part of educating the people, make them feel emotionally connected with the environment, with their surroundings, and make it change their mindset towards this. So I hope you like this presentation. This is a little bit about Ocean's Voice and other organizations that are part of it. And we need to cooperate with each other. We need to have this participation, and we need to take part of governance. Governance is important to address the environment and to address climate change. So Domenico, I give you the word. Do you want to say something?
as usual, presentations are super nice, and it's an honor to have you here. I'll give the floor to here.
Yes, I wanted to also thank you very much for this presentation, but that goes for all the presentations today. I think it's very important to connect those presentations, in which in your presentation the emotion, the passion is a key word and something very important. Then today I've also heard something about big data, about collecting data. Very important. Where do we gather our information? How do we treasure it? Are there people sitting on their data and don't want to share it? I mean, that's going to be a big problem as well. We're thinking about being creative, being smart, thinking in the other direction. We have a problem, and let's turn this problem around. Let's use this plastic, this material for new creations. We've seen toys, we've seen tools. Let's try to design something and use people's imagination to resolve this. There's also this factor in which we need to sometimes turn off our emotions. As Professor Grosso would say, think of the complexity of the problem. That means, where do these microplastics go, and where do they come back from? Which direction do they flow? Is there some place where we can collect it, gather it, have a big vacuum cleaner on the ocean that resolves it all? Of course, complex problems have complex solutions. So the answer is not in one of these sections, but I think, as today's meeting demonstrated very well, it's in more aspects than the emotion or just the innovation on itself. The combination makes us, and I think there's the strength of the youth, very strong. We should do this together. I give the word back to Domenico in a final little closure of this session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chris. And I will not add any other more words than the perfect words that Christian has said. So we are now running to the conclusion with a surprise, as we were saying. I kindly invite you to play with us. So I will start the game and I will tell you how to join. So let's try to go. Okay. So now I'll share my screen and follow my instruction. So you have to go to www.kahoot.it and make the pin, the game pin as you are seeing on the screen. So yes, 5296195. So please join. Also, Luciana, you are very welcome to join. Okay. So go. Okay, thanks. So the people are joining. Okay. So all the participants, I will share the code on the chat and also the website where we have to go. Just a moment. Okay, I'll wait another minute and then I will start. So be like quick to join. I saw yes, we are rising, but we are not still the total. So 1 minute to go. Hurry. Okay, I'm going to start. So please, the people that are not joining, please join. Okay. So 1, 2, 3, let's start. So this is a quiz. So push the button. Okay, now let's see how it's going. Whoa. The red one was the right. So, okay, let's go to the next. So, oh, Luciana was the fastest. Congratulations to Luciana, and then Gabriella the second.
Thank you.
Let's see. We are continuing with the next question. Oh, so here our colleagues from CL can be the next, but who knows? Hurry. Okay. So was the yellow one. Then let's go to the next. Seb, Luciana still on the top. Congratulations. Whoa. Okay. True or false? This is like super fast. Ooh. Let's go. Let's see who's. Oh, Luciana is stable there, like super champion. Congratulations. But come on, let's challenge Luciana. It's too easy. So guys, be quick. Okay. Other 3, 2, 1. Ooh. Okay, was the blue one. Let's see. Here we are. Oh, we have now the winners. So, third point for Luciana. Wow, congratulations to Gabriella. And the first one. Great, Seb. Surprisingly, congratulations to Seb that at the last point made like the good shot and won. So congratulations to all. Thank you very much for have played with us, and thank you very much for following this event. The event is being streamed on Abzin web page, but we also will give to the participant the recording so you can see all the intervention. So I'll really thank all the speakers of this amazing event that we have done with the All for Climate and Festival dello Sviluppo Sostenibile 2021. I will really thank UNEP and GCY for supporting the initiative, San Diego State University and Metabolism of Cities for being partner of this great journey since the first beginning. And of course, thank you to the venue and all the support that Campus Sostenibile and Politecnico di Milano has given us. It's been a pleasure to be here in this venue. Now that of course it's a super topic moment for climate and for environment. Thank you to the colleagues of CL that have joined, and special thanks also because they have been our family, also because UNEP and GCY Mariliter and Microplastic Working Group joined. Thanks to them, the Break Free from Plastic Coalition that is a super is a network related properly to stop, with different NGOs are participating, and thank you for welcoming us. And thank you to all the team, so Carol, Gabriella, Batwa Razif, Susan Astik, that unfortunately she wasn't there, but she really contributes to the position paper, Christian Zakur, Ibrahim Inusa, Natalia Vugino, and all. So I will close here. Thank you very much, and keep updated and follow us on our channels. Thank you. Bye-bye, and have a nice day.
Thank you so much.